This is how I prepped myself for my first ever bodybuilding show and won the overall title. It was about last year, January, that I actually made up my mind to compete in a show. So the first step I had to do was figuring out the show that I wanted to compete at. And I figured Barry Naturals would be the best option for me just because it was close enough and the time frame just fit perfectly. And so I went onto their page to look at their athletes, and I looked at the last winners and figured I just have to look way better than this guy, and I would have a good shot at first place. I mean, it was a pretty simple um, thought process, but it was harder than anticipated. But the next stage was filling out all my muscle densities. I'd been training for about 5 years, so I did have like a really solid base, but the next step I felt was necessary was filling out the really lagging parts. For me, it was upper chest, lats, some section of my legs. So I structured out a training plan that would help me have a better shot at having a very complete physique. And then the next step was figuring out how to diet down. I looked up on YouTube. I was going on to older bodybuilding styles and old bodybuilding forums, and I realized the main thing I really just have to do was cut down my carbs. So I just figured I would eat less carbs every week for about like 13 weeks, and that's pretty much what I did. So it went pretty well for the main part, because I also don't weigh myself. So I would just wake up in the mirror and I would just wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, and if I see that there are more fine lines appearing, then I would say, yeah, I'm leaning down. And that's the strategy I used to get that lean. And that actually made me win the overall title. But one thing I would say is I had to get a posing coach. It was about 9 weeks out, and I realized I had not even been practicing my poses well enough. And I figured instead of having to learn posing all over again, I would just get someone who already knows. And that was the one thing that changed the game for me. That really gave me the confidence to to step on stage and just do the best that I could. So going into this, it felt scary at some point, and I really thought that maybe I couldn't do it, but I had to remind myself that it was a choice that I was making, and it's not a serious affair with very high stakes. It's just an interesting activity that I chose to do. So I didn't have to put that much pressure on myself. And that mindset shift really changed the game for me, because I then realized, well, I mean, it's fine if you lose. In fact, it's fine if I show up and I'm like the worst athlete on stage. But I showed up and I was really confident on game day, and a lot of the people who were there were like really supportive, and that made me feel it made me feel better about myself. And after I stepped on stage for the novice, I stayed in the dead center throughout, so I figured, I mean, I did well. But then the open, I was moved to the right, so I thought like, damn, did I not win this? But then eventually I did take that too, and I was on my way out when someone was like, yo, you won the open, so you have to like battle for the overall. And I went back and then I battled for the overall, and I took that too. So that's pretty much it. So if you have any more questions for me, you can leave them in the comments, and you can just stick around and see whatever else I post.